This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our August monthly, actually now quarterly PI and coordinator call. Looks like the number of new attendees is slowing down, and we do have a busy agenda, so let's go ahead and get started. Josh, if you could advance to the next slide. So our agenda for today, as always, we will start out with a recruitment update. We have a number of announcements for you all. We'd like to share a new tool that could help guide clinical conversations about combination therapy or monotherapy and introduce the concept of the combined trial. And then with any time at the end, we'd like to spend just a few minutes discussing the optional third year and how those conversations are going at your sites. Next slide. And so as of the end of last month, we've had 258 patients randomized. We have 36 active centers, and 34 of them have recruited at least one patient. The other two have heard from me this week. So really great work over the course of the summer. Summers are historically slow months, but this year we had 10 patients randomized in June and 9 patients randomized in July. So we've sort of kept up with our slow and steady pace over the course of the summer, which is great because I know that many clinical staff and research coordinators and patients and families all go on vacation. So in the month of June, the following centers have recruited patients: Cincinnati Children's, Omaha Emory Levine, Nemours Jacksonville, Oklahoma, Rainbow, Michigan, UNC, and Golisano. And in July, Alabama recruited 2. CHKD and Cincinnati each recruited a patient. Emory continues to be on a roll. Dayton recruited patients, Riley, Stanford, and Golisano. So really a good strong showing for the summer. Next slide. This graph here sort of shows where we're at with recruitment. The green on the top shows our ambitious recruitment target. The blue on the bottom shows our actual total of randomized patients, and our gap between our goal of 425 and our current of 258 is about 167 patients, and we're continuing to close that gap by about 10 patients per month. Next slide. And this slide here just shows our recruitment numbers by center. You can see on the left, our lead centers continue to be Children's Hospital of the King's Daughter and Cincinnati Children's, but we have a number of sites now who are at or quickly approaching 15 participants at their centers. And then a number of centers that are at or close to exceeding 10 participants at their centers. So we need to keep up the good work. Next slide. And I think here I'm going to transition over to Anne who will talk us through some of the revised combined documents and other small little protocol updates that were recently approved by the Central IRB. Go ahead, Ann.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So the protocol amendment that went through was a pretty minor deal, and it was mostly used also to update some of these documents that we may have missed earlier. So Josh sent a copy of these out to everyone on Monday. They're also up on our SharePoint site. So let's go over some of the changes. On the PROs, all we did was just add a couple of extra dates in there. So the ones that you see in red outlined are new additions, because previously you could collect PROs visit 4. If you didn't get them at visit 4, you could go ahead and get them at visit 5. And we were kind of missing those dates, so things weren't being aligned. So we added those in, so now you can clearly mark which visit the PRO is meant for. Next slide. Okay, and for our FAQs, all we did was change this one sentence on page 5 of the fax, and just indicated that the child will be participating in the study for up to 3 years, which was the change from before it said 2 years. Next slide, good. So we have our study medication guide, where we added in the 3rd year diary. So this is for shipments 9, 10, 11, and 12. And we added all of those in. And I want to go a little bit, we haven't talked about the study medication guide for a while. So I just kind of want to go over this a little bit to refresh everyone's memory. So the next slide. So the study medication guide is a patient guide that explains all of the medications, the pharmacy process, how the pharmacist is going to call them, how that all works, how to load the pill box, and it also includes that treatment diary that we just saw. So this is meant as a tool, a necessary part of the patient education, and the coordinator or the provider, it's usually the coordinator, I believe, is to sit down with the patient and go through the study medication guide page by page. So it should be done after the patient consents, but prior to the randomization, so that everything that happens with the study meds is all fully explained to the patient and the family before randomization. So this is all part of what I think is commonly referred to as the purple folder. You can contact Catalina at UNC, who is sending these out. Previously, it was Nancy that was sending them out. So the purple folder contains the study medication guide and the study alert card. So if you're running low, give Kat, just send her a quick email and she'll send some out to you. But make sure that you always have a couple available to go over just in case you're consenting anyone. Next slide. Okay, so what is new with this protocol amendment, other than those few forms, is that the Central Pharmacy changed their name. So it's now RxCrossroads by McKesson. So there are a couple places in the protocol where that was referenced, so we just needed to make that name change. And the other piece is that we took out the nested trial. So this was a study within a study where half of the sites were using the enhanced pre-consent procedures and the other half of the sites were using the standard pre-consent procedures. So what we did is we stopped this trial, this sub-study, and now we're providing these tools are going to be opened up to everyone. All sites can now use this enhanced pre-consent. And we're going to be going over this in detail towards the end of this meeting. But just wanted you to know that it includes an enhanced pre-consent poster that will kind of walk participants through. It's meant to be a tool that gets used with the provider to introduce the study to the patients and kind of walk them through what Combine is all about. So we'll have more on that in a little bit. But these posters are going to be going out shortly. I think some of them have already been shipped out. And all sites are highly encouraged to use this poster. Next slide. So what has been sent out this week is that be looking for a shipment that's coming out with a restock of all the study supplies. You're going to be getting some new test tubes. You're going to get the enhanced pre-consent poster, a bunch of prospective parent folders. So this is also another new tool. These are going to be in green folders. And this is also meant to be handed to prospective parents, prospective families, so they can take home this packet of information and have it all available for them to read at home. So it's going to consist of the FAQs, the About Combine, the Resource Parents flyer. We also have a couple of new infographics. One is geared for kids, one is geared for adults. And it's meant to give families a visual way to understand how this trial works. And it's meant to be taken home, read in the comfort of their own home, so they're not having to rush to make any type of decisions. The box is also going to include the outcomes cheat sheet that many of you saw at the Spring Community Conference, so that's going out to everyone. And also those purple folders with the study medication guide, and the little card is going out as well. So if you haven't received it, be expecting them. They're coming to you any day now. Next slide. Okay, so I want to show you what these infographics are. So again, it's just another tool that we came up with in order to help with recruitment. This one is geared for the kids. So we try to do it in a very respectful but simple manner as far as walking the children through what they can expect if they go through this study. And on the next slide, we're going to see what the parent version looks like. Again, it's kind of a very similar to the poster that you're going to be getting. The enhanced pre-consent poster is much larger. So this one is meant to go home. It's kind of simplified a little bit more. We're trying to explain to people that it is a standards of care study, that you're going to be coming in for your visits just as if you would normally, and so the visit guide down at the bottom kind of explains you might be getting a follow-up phone call, you might have to answer a questionnaire during this visit or that visit, and what's going to happen during the study. So again, and there are many different learning styles out there. So some people are very visual, some people want to talk things through, some people are a combination. So we're just trying to get tools to be able to help explain the study that's geared to all types of different people, all different age levels, and trying to make this as simple as possible. Next slide. Okay, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the study completion and the unblinding process. So we're really excited to have a lot of our patients are completing the 2-year follow-up period. So we'll be talking about the reconsenting later on, but as you know, a lot of people are agreeing to go on to that 3rd year. Some people are saying, no, I signed up for the 2-year study and I'm done, and that's absolutely fine. So once a patient has completed the study at the end of the 2-year period, if they have not agreed to continue for that 3rd year, go ahead and complete their Visit 10 CRF. Ensure that all the study medications have been completed, and fill out the completion early termination CRF and ensure that you mark that the patient has completed the study. Once those items are all done and the patient is eligible to be unblinded, so eligible means that the patient is completing the study on study drug. If they are still on study drug, which means they haven't met an outcome or they haven't stopped medication for non-medical reasons, they can be unblinded. So just give me an email, send me an email. Let me know that the provider has signed off on that completion CRS and that the other things are all completed, and I'll go ahead and loop you in.
And we lost you. Anne? I think we lost Anne. Why don't we advance to the next slide? Let's see. Anne, are you trying to talk? Otherwise, I will.
I just sent her a message.
Okay, thanks. Well, I will take over. Just a reminder about a couple of data and follow-up things that we have observed and are working on. A general reminder that ICN registry data should be entered and updated at the time of a combined visit and at the same time that you all are entering the visit data into Combine. Again, Combine is an add-on to the Improved Care Now registry. We were very mindful in the design of Combine not to ask centers to enter the same data on the same participants on the same visits twice. And so the Combine forms, generally speaking, collect information that's not already part of the registry, but what that means is that we require registry visit data entered alongside the Combine data. We're seeing a number of missing ICN registry visits and data elements, and it's causing a lot of exceptions. I do recognize that at some centers, it's a different person who is maintaining the ICN registry versus the Combine database. And so if it is two different people at your site, that's not optimal, but that barrier can be overcome with really good communication between those two people. The other option, which is a new option that we've built in for you guys, is you can always click that box as you're going through the Combine and enter the data that should be or could be entered into the registry directly into that Combine visit. We've gone through how to do that in the past. If you have any questions about that, let us know. And so there's two ways of doing it. Either enter a registry visit for every Combine visit, or in that Combine visit, you can also include the registry data. And that feature is available for past visits as well. And so if you notice that 18 months ago, no one ever entered a registry visit, you can go back into your Combine window for that visit and enter the registry data or labs that you would have ordinarily put in the registry. All right. Any questions about that, put them into the chat box, or you can contact Anne or any of us offline. Moving on to participant follow-up. This is really, really important. As our recruitment has continued to ramp up over the last 18 months, and as we follow patients for a minimum of 2 years, we have a lot of patients across all of our centers that are currently in follow-up. And we want to make sure that we are following up these patients, not only to ensure their safety, but also to make sure that we collect the data that we need to analyze our research questions. And so follow-up includes phone calls after each drug shipment, and there's an electronic CRF case report form for that. It involves regular clinic visits. We suggest in the protocol after induction that regular clinical visits occur quarterly. You may do things a little bit more differently at your site. By and large, that's okay. If you're seeing patients more frequently, please enter that data as additional visits for Combine. If you're seeing patients less frequently, that's probably okay, although we do require a Combine visit every 6 months at a minimum. Again, every 6 months at a minimum. During follow-up, we have a standard of care lab schedule, and those labs can be entered into the case report forms, and we've got processes in place for you all to identify and document adverse events and serious adverse events. And this is just a reminder that at each site, the PI is ultimately responsible for all of the study conduct that's happening at their site and reporting everything as needed to the IRB. And so now is a really good time for coordinators and PIs to make sure that they have at least a monthly touch point so that the PI knows what's going on, so that the coordinator knows that the PI knows what's going on, so that the two together can problem solve as needed. Shahzad has spoken about this in the past, and some of the tools that they use, other sites have spoken about it in the past as well. But it's just a really good idea to go through all of the patients that are still in follow-up. When have they had their last visit? Has that data been entered? Have they had any AEs or SAEs? Have they met any of the primary study endpoints? When is the next visit due? And has that visit been scheduled? If not, how do we go ahead and schedule that visit before it's missed? All right, next slide. So we're going to switch gears a little bit and demystify a little bit about this enhanced pre-consent stuff that we referenced a little bit earlier during the protocol amendment part of today's presentation. Again, many of you know that we did a nested study or a study within a study to evaluate whether a shared decision-making tool could help clinicians discuss with parents the issues about combination therapy versus monotherapy, the theoretical pros and cons to each of those approaches, the fact that even as of August 2019, we really don't know which is best, so kind of sharing with patients and families the equipoise in the literature, and using that as a springboard to introduce the Combine trial. That process is what we've been referring to as that warm introduction, where each clinician can sort of frame the clinical decision that patients need to make and sort of introduce the trial. At that point, the study team can sort of walk in the room, contact the family by phone, and kind of explain the details of Combine and begin the recruitment process in earnest. So this sort of pre-consent, pre-recruitment discussion is not considered human subjects research. It really is just a way of communicating the clinical choice that these patients are facing, the pros, the cons, and the equipoise around it as a springboard for the Combine trial. The interim results of this shared decision-making tool did not show much of an impact. However, we also noted that a lot of times centers that, centers that had access to the tool weren't using it the way that it was meant to be used. Again, as I previously mentioned, the tool is not meant as a coordinator-driven, to guide coordinator-driven discussion or PI-driven discussion. The tool is really meant to be used as sort of an adjunct of clinical care by each of the patient's sort of treating physicians. And so we're making this tool available to all sites now. And there's a very brief video that sort of explains how to use the tool and what it's all about. And if we are able to technically, I'm going to have Josh click on the link and we can watch the first minute of that video now. And then you guys can watch it at your sites later. And importantly, share some of the components of this with the clinicians at your practices. I guess we don't have sound.
Discussion. Your site to the enhanced pre-consent arm.
Doesn't look like the audio is working, but we will make this link available to you after today's call so that you all, as a coordinator PI unit, can review it and think about how best to share this with the clinicians in your practice. Can we go back to our main slides? Sorry, everyone, for the technical difficulties here. And if you're back, I'll turn it over to you for the last couple of minutes.
Sure, I'm back. I'm sorry about that. So I'm hoping that everyone here will let us know how the reconsenting discussion is going for you. I know that many sites have had this discussion. We have 7 patients who have reconsented for year 3, which is awesome. So thank you for having that conversation. But we'd love to know, how is it working at your site? Is it awkward? Is it comfortable? Are they open to it? What are some of the issues or problems? Or on the flip side, if it's just been going really smoothly. Is there anyone here that can share how that 3rd year reconsent discussion is going?
This is Shazad. Leah, if you're on the call, can you share? Because I think one of my patients agreed to do that this past Tuesday.
Yeah. So what I did is with that patient, at one point in time when I was reaching out to her to confirm her receipt of study drug, I let them know about the extension at that time. And I also sent them via email the informed consent so they could read it. And they had already decided by the time visit 9 came around that they wanted to do the extension. And it was very comfortable. It was a very comfortable decision, a conversation.
That's wonderful. That's great. Has anyone else had other experiences with this?
Hey, Ann, it's Amy Quinn.
Hi.
We have consented. Hi. We've had one patient extend for the 3rd year, and this is a really compliant family. They've done really well. They were happy to, tag on for the 3rd year. It was really pretty simple. I saw them at their Remicade visit. We talked about it. They signed the consent right then.
Oh, wow. That's great. Yeah, it seems, I think we've been seeing some come through from Alabama, Aditi, Stanford. I think you have had someone reconsent also, correct?
Yes, Anne, yes. We have had one patient who has reconsented, and I'm in the process of talking to another one, but I don't think that he wants to continue, and I will let you know which one.
Yep, I mean, that's also very common. I would say that we've been maybe having about 60% say that they don't want to continue, and maybe about 40% going forward and just saying, sure, another year, why not? So from what I'm hearing, it hasn't been too painful for the sites, and that's something that we really want to make sure that we're not putting too much burden on anyone by asking for this third year. But it sounds like overall it seems to be either a simple yes or no, and just please let us know if you're having any problems or issues. Contact us and we can try and work through some different things. But also, if they say no, we're done, that's perfectly fine as well. Mike, do you have anything else?
Nope, and we are right at noon, so I'd just like to thank you all for your hard work and participation with Combine. Any questions, anything that comes up, the slide here shows how to contact us. And, you're always free to just get in touch with me for anything at any time. And I'm happy to point you in the right direction if I can't answer your question myself. We will be meeting in person at the community conference in September. And for those of you not attending the community conference in September, don't worry, we will make sure that we have a way of sharing whatever content that we cover at the community conference with the rest of the group, probably on a makeup webinar like this. So thanks and have a great week.
Thank you.
Okay, bye everyone.
Bye.